course, shutdown showdown over the border wall. President Trump just tweeted this: no matter what happens today in the Senate, Republican House members should be very proud of themselves. They flew back to Washington from all parts of the world in order to vote for border security and the wall. Not one Democrat voted yes, and we won big. I'm very proud of you, writes the president. The Democrats whose votes we need in the Senate will probably vote against border security and the wall, even though they know it is desperately needed. If the Dems vote no, there will be a shutdown that will last for a very long time. People do not want to open borders and crime, writes the president. House Republican votes 217 to 185. Shut down today if Democrats do not vote for border security, writes the president. Joining me right now, White House Senior Advisor for Strategic Communications, Mercedes Schlapp. Mercedes, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning.
How long a shutdown would you expect?
Well, at this point, we're taking it day by day. Obviously, we had a very productive meeting with the congressional House Republicans. And the president, they worked on this deal where they said, look, we need to have that $5 billion for border security in addition to funding for disaster relief. It is a strong bill. This is a moment in time to get this done. For too long, we've been waiting for additional funds for border security. And let's remember, it was Speaker Paul Ryan and Majority Leader Mitch McConnell who promised the president, we're going to work on getting your border wall funding by the end of the year. So this is keeping to a promise, and this is something that the president has been very clear on from day one.
Mercedes, we just had on Congressman John Garamendi, a Democrat, who basically says, look, we don't need the wall. We don't even know the details of where the president wants this wall. He keeps saying the southern border, but the border is incredibly large. He says we can handle 20,000 people a year who are wanting asylum. And you say what?
That's absolutely inaccurate. First of all, there's priorities in terms of where they would build the steel slats and the wall, or what you would call the physical barriers. Let's remember that it was the Democrats, many of them, including Schumer, who signed on to the Secure Fence Act of 2006. In fact, that would be to build fencing in the southern border. They themselves have said, you had Senator Durbin go out and say also, I feel comfortable building these steel slats, making sure that there's a barrier along the southern border. They recognize that there's a need to reduce illegal immigration. You have seen Border Patrol having to deal with an increase of over 90% of illegal border crossings. We are overwhelmed in terms of our immigration system, and it is time now to take action. And this is what the American people want. This is about protecting American communities and ensuring that we have enough resources for our men and women who basically risk their lives every day in dealing with illegal immigrants crossing the border.
But, you know, this is bigger than just the border. I mean, the Democrats do not want the president to have any more victories. Certainly, they do not want him to keep any campaign promises. So as you look out over the next 2 years, Mercedes, you know you're looking at an uphill battle in terms of the Democrats trying very hard to stop the president from having any more victories. How are you going to deal with it? What's the plan for the administration to deal with what's to come in the next 2 years?
Look, let's remember that even today, the president is going to sign the criminal justice reform bill. This was a bipartisan effort. Border security should be and needs to be a bipartisan effort.
But
we need the Democrats to come on board. And if the Democrats continue to put politics over country, politics over the safety of the American people, they'll end up losing. They'll pay a political price. This president will stand true to his promise of ensuring that we're going to secure our border. He will find a way to do that. He wants Congress to come on board, and that's why the Senate should vote to support the House bill that they just passed yesterday.
But do you have a plan to deal with a lot of no's that you're going to be facing in the next 2 years? Is there a plan to get legislation out, continuing to come up with even economic policy that moves the needle when you've got no help on the other side?
Look, if there's one thing about President Trump is he understands the art of the deal. He will continue talking to the Democrats. If the Democrats are continuing to focus on resistance, obstruction, and getting nothing done for the American people, they're going to be in a losing position. At the end of the day, President Trump will continue to fight for the American people. He will continue to push for an economic growth agenda, as we're now about to reach the tax cut anniversary, the signing of that bill. Again, we've seen so much economic progress, and we're hoping that the Democrats come on board to help continue to build our economy strong strong to ensure that American workers have what they need to get the job done. And let's remember, we have a trade agreement. That's going to be a big part of the legislative portfolio come early spring with the USMCA. So that's going to be a big focus that the president is going to be working on with Congress. And we hope the Democrats come on board.
Well, even there, though, Mercedes, I've had a number of Democrats on who say they're not going to sign USMCA. They're not going to vote for it as it is, that the president's going to have to make changes. We've heard that from a number of Democrats.
Well, again, this is part of the negotiating process between the executive branch and the legislative branch. So that's what we'll be looking at. What we do know is we made the biggest trade deal between Canada, Mexico, and the United States, and it's received favorable reviews so far.
Even from the unions, actually. You're right. The president just tweeted again. He's tweeting now for the 8th time in the last hour. He just said this, Mercedes. Even President Ronald Reagan tried for 8 years to build a border wall or fence and was unable to do so. Others also have tried. We will get it done one way or the other, the president writes. Let me ask you about the debate going on within even his own cabinet, Mercedes, and that is over his plans to take the troops home from Afghanistan now, from Syria. We've got a shakeup at the Defense Department as a result. We saw what James Mattis said. Defense Secretary Mattis resigned over the president's announcing these troop withdrawals in Syria and Afghanistan. And Mattis wrote to the president this, in part, because you have the right to have a Secretary of Defense whose views are better aligned with yours. I believe it is right for me to step down from my position. So we've got this resignation this morning, Mercedes, and a lot of questions as far as why the president is taking the troops home when, in fact, it could empower the bad actors, empower ISIS once again.
Well, let's remember, Secretary Mattis, first of all, has been a great patriot, has served our country for over 40 years in military service. And they have a great relationship. We were just talking with the president yesterday. President Mattis, Secretary Mattis and President Trump have a great relationship. They have agreed on many fundamentals, whether it be increased military spending, ensuring that our military has the resources that they need for readiness and for the resources for our military. The reality, though, is that when there are fundamental differences, the president's going to need to find someone who's more aligned with his policies and are willing to support it. What we have seen in Syria is that we have seen a win. A win in the fact that we have been able to defeat the caliphate in that area. We've been able to train the coalition forces in that area. And that was what our goal and what our mission was. And now it's time for our troops to come home. It's something that the president promised during his campaign. And he's looked at what has happened in Syria, reviewed the policies, and in his mind, he's basically made that decision after listening to many people.
When is he going to name a new defense? When is he going to name a new defense secretary, Mercedes?
Well, we don't have an answer at this point, and he will be. We'll let you know when there's a policy or a personnel announcement in terms of Secretary of Defense. But we do know that the acting secretary, he's very strong, and of course will continue to operate in terms of our Department of Defense.
Mercedes, thanks so much. Mercedes Schlapp.